The Travel Bug Girls have partnered with A Little Nitty, a local yarn shop in Milton, Washington, to create some incredible trips that you are going to love. Each trip is designed to check all the boxes for yarn and fiber lovers who want to take their crafting on the road or the high seas. So grab your favorite yarn and get ready to pack your bags. We have Nitty Adventures coming in May, August, and October of 2025. To find out more, visit travelbuggirls.com/nitty-adventures. Welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast, the show where we dive into the world of travel, exploring everything from expert tips and insider secrets to unforgettable destinations and the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned globetrotter or planning your very first adventure, we've got you covered with the advice and inspiration you need to make your travels truly unforgettable. So sit back, relax, and let's take your travel planning to the next level. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast. I'm Kimmy. I'm your host, and today I'm here with Heather, Cassie, and Kara. And today we are going to talk about your first international adventure. So this is going to be all of our best tips and tricks for our travelers that are going on their first international trip. So I think it's going to be a really fun episode, very helpful for you guys, and we're excited to get started. So if you've ever thought about traveling beyond the borders of home, but it's a little overwhelming and scary, this episode is for you. We're going to give you all the expert tips so you'll know exactly what to do. If you'll have any questions, we'll have you. It'll be smooth sailing. And really, it's not as scary as you think it's going to be. It really isn't. So, do you guys have a story about your first international trip or kind of how your experience went?
My first international trip, I was young, so I didn't have to worry about anything. I barely knew where I was. But my first solo international trip was to study abroad. So there were, extra things that most people don't need to do because you're not tied to a school and tuition and all that stuff. But even going between the countries after I got there, I learned a lot about just what to have prepared and what backups to have. It seems like if you were to write it down, it seems like a laundry list of things, but it's not really, because it's all connected. I guess my experience is just printing everything out, having backups. I showed up to, I was living in London, and I was traveling to Scotland, and it was my first travel abroad, and I did not print out, I printed out my reservation, my directions, but I didn't double check them. So I show up to the train station and it's dark. It's nighttime. I hadn't thought about that. I'm by myself. I have an international phone, but it doesn't have, this was 2015, so it didn't have all the bells and whistles it has now. And I couldn't just look up where my hostel was. I was staying in the hostel. It's not a grid system, so the directions were not clear. And then I got there and it turned out I had booked the wrong weekend. So I had to rebook.
Oh no.
And luckily they had a space and it was fine. And I stayed in this 6-bed room with this one guy that was kind of sketchy. And it ended up being, now it's hilarious. But at the time I was like, man, I've learned so much. And it's all just it's all just a matter of, I was 20. It's all just a matter of doing your research and having the things you need. And
research and experience goes a long way. And P.S. for anyone listening to that story who's never traveled abroad, she's talking about a hostel, because an average hotel room, you're not sleeping with another random guy. So that's a different thing that we could talk about later. But I just want the random person listening.
Only ever happen in a hostel.
Yeah, it would almost never happen. Even in a lot of hostels, they have guys and girls separated. So.
I chose.
That's a different kind of trip, guys. That's a different kind of trip.
That's a college kid trip right
I
there.
was broke. Yep. I was like
Mhm.
a private room. Who am I? So I was
What we do when we're in college traveling is different than what we do when we're 40 traveling. Just everybody should know
I would
Yeah.
never now. Now I would never.
I
Yeah.
would never either, but I have in the past done that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
My first two trips were organized by other people. I was the kid that wanted to travel abroad from the time I was a child. Like the world, this big beautiful place, adventure, like all of that like that has always been like deep in the heart of me wanting to go see the world. So my first trip was Venezuela with our university. I was in the choir and we went to Venezuela and did 6 weeks traveling around as an American choir in Venezuela. And that was an adventure. And I would never have picked Venezuela. I didn't speak Spanish. I would never have done that on my own. I wouldn't have. And Venezuela, I hear, is a very different place today than it was then. That was a while ago, guys. But what an adventure. However, like Kara said, it was organized by the school. There was a lot of things that were done. And like we were given a checklist, like you have to have this in by this date. You have to have this money paid by this time. You have to, right? But then they did everything. They bought my plane tickets. They decided where we were going to sleep. They organized everything. So all I had to do was show up and be a part of the trip. And assuming I had met the checklist, I was good and I got to go along. So everything was decided. I didn't have to research anything or plan anything. Everything was told to me, spoon fed to me by the school. So that was nice. And then my next trip was several years later. My mother, who'd been to Europe several times, knew I wanted to go to France. So she arranged for me to go with her to Paris for the first time. And so that was my second trip abroad. Was my mom planned everything and I showed up and had a great time. And honestly, if you are wanting to travel abroad and you are scared about it, I kind of recommend like have someone else plan it, someone who has experience, someone who knows what they're doing, who can be like, okay, I need you to have this, I need you to pay this money, I need you to do, and then maybe they give you some choices. If you're a grown adult planning your own vacation, maybe they're like, do you want this hotel or that hotel? But you really, I think it's a benefit if you're nervous about that your first time, because you can always plan your own next time. Once you've been and you've seen and you have an idea of how it works, then you could really dig into the research part of it. But I think it's a great idea to have someone go on an organized tour, go with a group, or at least work with a travel agent or someone who is an experienced travel planner in some way. So that way it takes out half of the scary stuff, like half of it right away. All that, like, what if I pick the wrong place? What if I'm sleeping in a sketchy spot, right? Like all of that stuff, immediately take that off the table. You're still going to have other things you're kind of nervous about because it's your first time. So I don't know. It worked for me to have other people tell me what to do. And now I plan my own stuff all the time. I plan other people's stuff, but I think it really helps the first time to have someone else tell you where to go and get started.
And you can always have that other person that has done this before. They'll think of all those little things that are just not going to occur to you, no matter how much research if you haven't done it. And ask questions. You know, if you want to eventually plan your own stuff, then have somebody else do it the first time and ask them a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
My first and only international trip was my honeymoon, and it was also the first time, coincidentally, I'd ever been on a plane. So I think I just mentally blocked out most of it. Like, I don't remember a lot of things. I do remember we did go through a travel agent, which was fantastic. I knew nothing about booking flights, nothing about, money exchange has always been like this thing for me, which we didn't have to exchange our money there. But a piece of information that he gave me that I give everybody that I talk to is if you're somewhere and you're confused and you're a tourist, follow the crowd. If you're getting off the plane, everybody's going to baggage pickup. Like if you're somewhere and you're going to a tour or something and you don't know if you should go this way or that way, where's the majority of the people going? You're more than likely going that way. And if you get in a crowd of people, there's chances are good that somebody is going to speak English and somebody is going to be able to answer a question that you may have. So that's the only travel we did. We had to have our passports. It was the Bahamas. I mean, so it's a stretch to say that it was international, but we had to go through customs and we had to
Sure.
declare things and all that stuff. So like I count it, but definitely with children, I have lots of questions. And, for a long time we thought it was unattainable to think that, we wanted to go to London or we wanted to go to Paris with a stroller or with a car seat. What, heaven forbid, what if we need to Uber and you don't have a car seat and somebody's like, oh no, you can't get in this car because you don't have a car seat. So we have been kind of waiting till we were out of the car seat phase to travel abroad, but definitely tons of information on YouTube. Heather directs people to those people that's like, watch how you go through customs. And I think that takes a lot of the anxiety out when you feel like you have a grasp of what you're at least supposed to do or supposed to ask. Sometimes we're just blissfully unaware of what we don't know and we don't know to ask.
True. So true.
Yeah.
I've stood in crowds. Paris is a great example. A lot of Americans go to Paris, and you can be in the summer standing in the middle of the airport in Charles de Gaulle, and it's Americans everywhere, all around you, Americans, big groups. Yeah. And by the time they've gotten out of the airport, many of them will already be at their limit. They're overwhelmed. They weren't thinking about this part of it. They've planned all the things that are going to happen once they're in city proper. But the problem is a lot of them have no idea that when they get off that plane, there's at least an hour of walking through things you don't understand. And then you still aren't in Paris. They don't realize it. And because especially if they plan their own trip, they don't realize it. They booked the flight. They booked the hotel. You're an hour away from your hotel. You have no idea where you are or how to get there. And surprise, it's expensive.
Yeah.
You didn't know, and you've spent all your money already. I can remember very vividly standing. We were buying tickets to get on the subway because we did know what we were doing. And this man is having a full-blown Midwestern meltdown in the middle of this ticket station because somebody has just told him how much it's going to cost for their family group to get subway tickets to get the heck out of there because they're trapped at the airport and they don't know how to get to their hotel in Paris. And it was going to cost them over $100 to get their entire group just into Paris. And he's like, we made all this money. I mean, he's having a complete meltdown. And I thought that is simply lack of education because he spent all the money for them to get there and it was way more than $100. But the problem is he didn't know. Nobody told him. And now he's learning it after a day of traveling and an hour of getting to that point, probably fighting through foreign stuff. And he's just at his wit's end. He's just done. And he probably needs a snack. And there's no food where you're standing. And all the things that I know now to warn people about, right? But the first time you do it, you don't know.
Yeah.
And that right there can derail your entire first day or two.
Yeah.
It's because you don't know. You don't know what you're in for. And now you feel overwhelmed and now you are afraid.
Yeah.
I don't even know, what have I gotten myself into? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
let's go back to before we even get on the plane, because there's some very important stuff when you're traveling internationally.
Number one, passport.
That like as soon as you decide you're going to travel internationally, there's some things you need to do, and that first thing is you need to go get your passport. Do not wait until 2 weeks before you're planning.
Do not decide you want to go to France next month,
y'all. I have
never had a passport. That happens all the time to people.
I had a friend. He waited to get his passport. And he waited too late to get it. And then he paid extra to have it expedited. Well, then it was tracking to come the day that they were leaving. So he got an appointment in New Orleans, I think. Drove down to New Orleans, got the passport there at the place. So it took like an hour, drove all the way back. I mean, that's like a 8-hour trip from here. And then the passport that he had ordered was at his house when he got back from driving to New Orleans.
And then
but he couldn't
use. You can't use one of them now because it's illegal. Yeah, you can't have two.
So it was a whole deal. But so don't wait. And now you have to have like the star ID, like even to fly
the real
ID.
That's a whole thing.
Real
the
ID.
real
Unless
ID.
you have your passport.
Unless you have your passport, which So get
a passport.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to redo my passport.
Get a passport.
I carry
mine everywhere. I have it all the time. That started when I lived in France. I've said this before. I carry mine everywhere. Mine does not live in a lockbox. It does not live at the bank or somewhere like that. It's in my purse with me always. And when I go to the airport, if I'm going to Tucson, it doesn't matter. I've got my passport. You're going to see my passport. You're going to approve me immediately. And I don't have to worry about any of that. So it gives you all the information you'd ever need right then. And if anything did emergency happen, that passport is a stronger identification with more information attached to it. So I feel like, I mean, that's me. I mean, I'm a weirdo who travels all the time, but I have my passport always. And that also means my husband could just whisk me away at any given moment.
If you were to decide.
Yeah, but guys, someday, I know.
Also, an important thing about the passport is make sure that the expiration, that you have at least 6 months before it expires.
Yeah. You're not kidding about it.
Anywhere.
For real.
That's
that's a rule. That's a rule.
It's a real issue. I've run into it twice. It's a real thing. They will be like, no, you're not. You've paid for everything. Oh, that is very sad. You're not going. That is how it is. You have to give yourself that window. So you have to order it in advance. Mine expires this fall. If I wanted to go somewhere right now, I couldn't go. I have to get a new passport, even though it's like 4 months until mine expires. I would not be allowed to go anywhere. So, and where that will happen is actually at the airport desk. At the airport desk, they're going to say, no, no, you're not getting on this plane. And sometimes reserving resort, they want you to put in, or tours, they want you to put your passport information in before everything really is even finalized sometimes. And they'll be like, oh, no, because they don't want you to pay all that money and then not be able to go. And then you're mad and want your money back. And now they're in a situation. So some of these companies have gotten really wise about that. And they want that information before they say yes and take your money. So that's a serious thing. Let's go back and talk about where to get your passport first, though, and then Kara, tell us more about that. But like, where did each of you go to get your passport? Because there are different ways to get your passport.
Yeah, I did. The first time I got mine, it was for study abroad. So I was in college at the time, and there was an office on campus. I did not realize I took for granted how easy that was. I just showed up. Also, there are some qualifications for that passport photo, because they don't want you to offend anybody, and they're assuming that you're gonna use this in any given country. So like I went in I don't know, like August or something in North Carolina with a strapless top. And they're like, you need to go put a sweater on before we take this photo. Or even like spaghetti straps. There are some cultures where if your shoulders are showing, they'll be offended and they might not let you in, So, but there was somebody there to tell me all of that. So if it is your first time doing your passport, then I would highly recommend going to an office. There are a lot of places like Walgreens or something. It might depend on the location. Will do the photo for you. I don't know how educated they are in those qualifications, but I know that they'll take it. I would recommend making an appointment with an office. However, the second time when I need to renew it, just last year, I took the photo myself and did the whole thing online. And because I knew what I was looking for and what was needed. Now, granted, it is very nitpicky. You have to do it just right. It's definitely easier to go somewhere.
Your face has to line up just right. It's a whole thing.
Perfectly in this little box. And like the lighting has to be, there was like too much of a shadow on my face on one side. So I had to redo it. Like it has to be just right. But it worked. I have a passport and that is an option if you have the time, patience, and confidence, but I would recommend making an appointment.
Yeah. I think the first time you go is a good idea.
Yeah.
So we went because the people that booked booked our travel, we live in a rural area in West Virginia, and we have tiny post office, and then we have like centralized post office that are larger, that handle larger things. So we had to go to this travel place. So down the road there was like one of those centrally located post office, and they said, just hop down there and get your passport. So me and my husband, we just went down there. They took our pictures. They did all of the things. I will say, I've been looking into getting our passports again. It's been 15 years. Like, my maiden name's still on my passport, if that's telling you anything.
Yeah.
And my picture, probably they'd be like, this is not the same person. Okay. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but your weight is not 115 pounds. But so we were talking about our children and getting our children's passports. So children's passports are a little more tricky than adults. I did find a post office that would that's closer to us than the original place that we went. They will, because I got online to do it online, and it is very confusing, especially when you're dealing with children and birth certificates and
Yes.
all of that. So I thought, we'll just go in and do it. So they told me at the post office, both parents have to be present.
Yes.
You have to have their birth certificates. Like, you have to have all of the things. But at this post office, they will help you fill out the form. So that is our plan, to get everybody's all at once kind of thing.
Yeah, it can be really tricky. Like, children, yes, you both have to be there. So if you're in a difficult custody situation, for example, you're going to have to work things out, get passports, like, so just be aware. And also there will probably be extra paperwork about that, because you need proof that one of you is not kidnapping your children, things like that. So just be aware that when it comes to children, it's even more complicated, and you do need to maybe do a little research. And absolutely, I agree, have someone help you the first time, so that it's always easier to renew a passport than it is to get a first one.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have the help you need if you have a difficult situation.
And you do have to have those original documents. So additionally, if you're not comfortable mailing those out, which I am not, but I did, and it was very stressful.
It was very stressful.
Then just, especially, just go in person. Just have them in your hand and don't let them go. And
when I did mine, so we do have a place locally that'll kind of like help you with the process, but they don't process it here locally. So I did have to I went and got my picture made at Walgreens, and then I did have to send it off with I was like, are you insane? You want me to put all these like original documents and just let it go into the U.S. post office system and hope it comes back?
So scary.
It was so
scary.
Yes, it is scary. I think too, some of those things you can get extra copies of, but you have to go through the proper channel. So now you're asking more time and more money, but you can get official copies of birth certificates and things through your state. So if you really are afraid of sending away the one copy you have, two things to know about that. You can pre-request extra copies, okay? That way you keep a copy and you send a copy. Second of all, if they disappear, guys, there is a process for getting those copies, okay, made. So just keep that in mind if you're panicking. And also know that every woman before you has panicked also when she sent away her marriage certificate, her birth certificate, or whatever it is that she had to send. So you're not the only one that feels that way. And when it comes to maiden names, as Cassie brought up, that's an important thing too. When you're booking travel, you must always and forever, always in any situation, put down the name on your flight, on your hotel reservations, resort reservations, tour reservations. You have to put the name that is on your passport. So if you are a sweet young thing getting married, for example, then or a lovely older bride getting married, this would still apply. If you're getting married and you plan to change your name, that's wonderful. Good for you. However, if your passport is in your maiden name, you have to write your name that's on your passport into whatever system you're reserving. So if you're typing up your flight confirmation, you can't put your new married name and be like, oh, I'm not married. No, ma'am, you are married. Good for you. But your name on your passport is Maiden. Then that's the name you're going to fly under, because otherwise you're going to show up and they're not going to let you go, or you'll get trapped somewhere. So don't put yourself in that situation, love. Make sure that your name on your passport is the name you're using for all your reservations, so that you don't get stuck somewhere. And your sweet husband's going to get to go on about his life, because the world is unfair. And so you're going to have to be stuck. And just take our advice, okay? If you haven't changed your name yet on your passport, you know, for a honeymoon, for example, or in Cassie's case, because she's just not got around to it, then if you're using your passport as your ID, your name has to match.
And don't you have to, this is super relevant to me right now, so I have some questions. Because I'm engaged, but doesn't your passport name also have to match your license? Because they check both. So like when you're getting your name changed, don't you have to do all of it?
They don't check both.
They don't
Okay, for example, when I show up at the airport,
I
only hand them my passport.
I guess I just automatically hand them both.
It trumps everything. Don't even put that away, girl. They don't need to see it.
I don't know if they've ever asked for it, but I've always handed it to them.
Don't bother with it. If you have a passport, it trumps any other form of ID. Okay. So just show your passport, and then it won't matter.
Because I just renewed mine last year. I am not about to waste 8 years of good passporting by changing my name.
But make sure until you do change your passport to your new married name that you are using your maiden name as it's written on your passport. And here's another thing that I run into as a travel agent. I see a lot more of this kind of stuff where a woman thinks she knows what her name says on her passport because she hasn't looked at it in a few years, and she writes her name a certain way on everything, right? And the reality is her passport doesn't necessarily match. For example, if you put your maiden name instead of your middle name, or your middle name instead of your maiden name, however you think you're writing it, you want your eyes to double check that before you confirm a reservation anywhere. Look at your passport, go dig it out of wherever you're hiding it, look at your passport and put in the name that is on your passport. If you're a person that has like 4 names, make sure that the name that's on your passport is the name you're putting in your reservations for wherever you're doing that. So it's really, really important. I mean, I'm harboring on this because you will get refused or trapped if you do not do it correctly. So it really does matter.
And if your name is hard to spell, additionally, I've had some of my names are hard to spell, so I've had this problem. Sometimes they will misspell it on legal documents.
Or they spell it right on your passport, but it's not right in the computer system because the person you're talking to on the phone didn't spell it correctly. So make sure that you iterate.
I think you should look into that, because I think that you have a certain period of time to update your name after you get married. And then once you pass that frame of time, I want to think it's like 2 years, because I wondered when I went back to pull mine out a couple years ago, I wondered if I needed to like apply for a new one or if I could just update the one that I had. And there is a time frame that you have after you get married to update it to your current name, or you have to file for a brand new and like a new person. So you should probably Google that, because
that'll be me.
Not want you to, because I thought, I'll just get a brand new one, because it was
we all need new passports coming up.
We need a new passport anyway. Let's just get a
passport party. We got our first ones at the library. Our local library was registered as an office, and we all went down as a family. We were a library family, so that's probably how I knew that. But so we all just went down to the library one day, and the librarian was like, "Come on in," and they took our pictures. They helped us fill out the paperwork. They double checked everything, asked us a few questions, and then sent it off. And then when it came back, it was mailed directly to our house, because you put your address in that form and then they're going to mail it to your house. But it was so nice to be in a place that we were comfortable in, that we were, really familiar with, and my kids weren't like freaking out being in this weird spot. But I've known other families that were able to go to a specific embassy or, another passport office. So that's another option. And especially if you need to expedite something, if you suddenly have to go to France. My mom lives in France. If something happened to my mom this fall, and like I said, I need to renew my passport, I would have to go to Houston. I live in Texas. I would have to go to Houston and apply in person for an emergency renewal so that I could get on a flight and go be with my mother in France.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation like that, I had a family last summer that wanted to go on a cruise, and they decided at the last minute they weren't going to go where they thought. They were going to go somewhere that needed a passport. And she was terrified that it would not come back in time. So they, as a family, took a day off and drove to their closest passport office and did it in person. So that is also an option for you. And you can find the closest place to you on the government website with a simple Google search. But make sure when you're looking at website that you're going to something that ends in .gov, okay? Because there's a lot of websites that are trying to get some money out of you, and they know people who don't know what they're doing, and they'll take advantage of you. So make sure that you go to a website that ends in .gov when you're looking at that Google search, that you are getting legit information, and they'll offer you can put in your zip code and they'll show you the closest location for you. And there might be like 10 options, like I said, the library, the post office, and your state office. So make sure that you are looking at legitimate information and follow only, if you're filling out an online form or an online application, that you're doing it from a .gov website.
They also,
we can put that in the show notes too.
That's a great idea.
Correct website.
Yeah.
That's also where you can find a list of the required documents.
Yeah.
On that same website.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another piece of documentation that you might not be thinking about besides the passport, and that is visas. Because not every country you have to have a visa, but a lot of them do. And the cost, the requirements to get one, the process is very different.
Yeah.
Some of them it's super easy. You just go online, fill out a little form. It's $20 and you're done.
They're all getting easier. So that's good news.
So first of all, how do you find out if you are going to need a visa for the country that you're going to?
Well, things in that department are changing a lot right now. So definitely always be paying attention. For Europe specifically, it used to be just that your passport counted as your visitor's visa. If you are from, it also depends on what country you're from and what passport you're using. That's really important with how long you're allowed to stay somewhere. But Europe is now changing its tune on accepting Americans with just our passports. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like, it hasn't been put into action yet, but it's been talked about for a little over a year now that Europe is going to start requiring that Americans also have a visitor's visa in addition to their passport.
Yeah.
There are many different types of visas. It also changes depending on the length of time you're trying to stay. Because essentially what they're doing with a visa is ensuring that you're not trying to move there without their consent, essentially. So a visitor's visa, an educational visa, a worker's visa, a digital nomad visa, there are all these different kinds. And you can find online which one suits where you're trying to go, first of all, and what you're trying to do there, how long you're trying to stay. And that all comes with different costs and different requirements of proof, basically.
Yeah. You typically, moving forward, when you're first planning a trip, you're going to want to do a quick internet search. Is a visa required for this country if I'm coming from the US? Like she said, Karen's exactly right. It's changing in Europe right now. It used to not be an issue at all. The UK already started theirs, called the ETA. You can go online and apply for it. It's super fast. They have their own app. Once again, make sure you're using reputable government sites to get started on those processes. But they do have their own app, and they want it to be simple. And then your information is stored in the app, so it makes it easy to access it and to reapply. And it's not expensive at all. I think it's $10, for that one. And the European one is supposed to be close to the same. And it currently right now they're saying this fall. So I don't know, but they've been saying this since last fall. It was supposed to happen last year and it didn't, and then in the spring and then it didn't, and then in the summer and it didn't. So if you're going to France or Italy, maybe in October you will have to do the form. So just, you're going to want to double check anytime in the next, between now and 2026, you're going to want to look it up before you go. And what will happen, like the passport, is if you show up at the airport and it's required and you don't have it, they're going to say, I'm sorry, we're not letting you on the plane until this is done. And that happened to me going from France to Australia. I did not know I needed a visa to go to Australia. And I was at the airport at the desk checking in, and she goes, well, where's your visa? Excuse me? Oh, well, you're not going today because that takes forever to apply for. And I'm sorry, you're not leaving today. And I was like, excuse me? I have spent thousands of dollars to go on this trip.
No.
It's a 3-week trip. And I did not have a backup plan. And I did not live anywhere near the airport I was standing in. So I was really like panicking. And of course, this is all being said to me in French too. So that made it super fun. And then what he said was, well, you'll have to go to this website and apply, but it takes 48 hours to get it approved. So you're probably not going. And I went in the corner and I cried. And then I pulled out my phone and I did the thing and it went ding, you're approved.
That lie.
And I went and stood in line again.
Thank goodness.
I know. But that was important for me to
do not risk that.
No.
Do not assume, Miss American, that you can just go anywhere you want, whenever you want, just because you paid money to go. That is not how the world works, even though we all think it does. It's just not how it works. And so we need to be aware and research and look ahead. And even to go somewhere relatively close, I'm going to the DR next year, and they have a requirement too, and that costs $12 for the visa, but it's a simple online form. I could do it right now, even though we're not going till next year, and it's done. So those are things that you just need to look ahead. It's a simple thing online. Usually there are countries though that are still pre-digital age.
Yes.
And we're probably not going to those places very often, but it could happen where you have to actually file a form somehow and have it sent off and wait a couple of weeks to hear back. And if you're applying for one of those visas that Kara mentioned, like a digital nomad, or if you're trying to stay somewhere for more than 3 months, most places it's around 3 months. If you're trying to stay like for a season or a year, hey, I'm going to go live in the Bahamas for a year. That's amazing. Good for you. And we live in an age when you can do that. However, you're going to have to go through a longer process. It's not a quick online form and done. You're going to have to probably go have a meeting with somebody, a real person who wants to see your face and ask you questions. And you're going to file a lot of paperwork. It's more than the process of getting a passport, usually, something like that. And it can take months and you're like waiting. I hope they approve me. I don't know if they will. What are we going to do if they don't? So I've been through that process trying to move to France. So I know that that's a different kind of situation than trying to go for a couple of weeks in the summer. So just be aware that those things exist and you can do it, but it may be a different process than like these quick online forms.
Also with the visitor's visa, I mean with any kind of visa, but specifically for short-term travel, when you get there, they're gonna ask you extra questions. Don't panic. It's okay. They're told to put up this front and kind of intimidate you a little bit. They're likely going to want to know how you plan to financially support yourself. So just have some kind of way to access some kind of proof of income. They're going to want to know where you're staying and how long you're planning. Well, they need to know how long you're planning to stay because they're going to mark it on your passport, but they need to know. So just have your departure flight information. If you don't have that, then have your wherever you're staying written out. If you're staying with a friend, even have them sign a document prior to you going. So you can show here, this is my accommodation. This is when I'm leaving. And maybe just like a pay stub or something for like, I have income, or a bank statement, they make it sound in the moment when they're asking you all these like important questions. It feels like, oh no, I'm not prepared. They're not going to let me in, but it's it's not as big of a deal as they make it seem. Just, just have access to things either on your phone or printed out. Almost, well, I say that and then I'm going to mess someone up, but usually an airport has Wi-Fi. If you're worried about that, print it out.
Or screenshots even. Screenshots on your phone. Yeah.
And that'll count.
That
you don't have to have an original thing at customs.
I typically wouldn't count on Wi-Fi at the customs desk because sometimes those are like in the basement of the airport in the middle where there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I usually do it before we get in line, and I just have it, or screenshot it, or I screenshot it.
Screenshot's a great way to get through something like that. Yeah,
I do have a little visa panic story similar to Heather's, but in reverse, where when I was studying abroad, I was living in London again, but I'm saying it again. And I went to visit my aunt who was living in Brussels at the time in Belgium. And I was taking the train back to London. This was months into the trip. I lived there for 6 months. This is probably like month 4. And what I had been doing up until this point is I had printed out my acceptance letter from the university and I was carrying that around as my proof. Because I was ignorant and I didn't know. I was like, that works. It had been working. To my defense, I had gone to very many countries at this point and nobody had batted an eye. Here I am at the Belgium train station and this woman is looking at me like I am trying to pull a fast one on her. And she was like, no, you're not going to fool me. This does not count. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't have anything else. This is all I have. Again, 2015. And she's like, yeah, nice try. You forgot it. I get it, but you're not getting on this train. And she's flipping through my passport. And I was like, this is all I've been using. And she's like, you mean to tell me that every one of these countries just looked at this and stamped it? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what happened. She was like, no. So I went to the corner and I cried. And then I looked through my phone knowing fully well there was nothing on my phone that was different than what I had in my hand. And just like, no, I'm going to have to call my aunt. I'm going to have to thank God she lived there because I had a backup plan. But the woman, I guess, felt bad for me when she saw me crying. There was nobody else there. And like realized like she might have actually been doing this all across the continent. And by some miracle, she called me over and was like, don't do it again. You need more documentation. And she let me on the train. I was like, oh, okay, it's hard. Thank you. And I got home, but it could have gone way worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have it with you.
This is definitely a PSA as travel agents. If we ask or say for you to do or bring something, it's not because we're being weird. It's because something has happened to us that has prompted us to double and triple check. For instance, one random time we got on a plane coming from Florida, I did lap infant for my babies until they were 2 because, that's free. I don't have to pay for an extra ticket, whatever. We were coming back from Disney in Orlando International. And my baby, he wasn't a big baby that you would think, I seen people do this with like 4 and 5-year-olds, like that kid ain't 2. But anyway, she said, where's the baby's birth certificate? And I was like, at home. What do you mean? And she said, anytime you have a lap infant, you have to present a birth certificate. And I was like, I had to go back through my phone and find his birth announcement in my pictures.
Wow.
Like where he was legit born in 2020. This was 2022. They were not going to let us on the plane.
Wow.
So if you do that, and I've also heard horror stories where people have taken, like we have a family friend that we take a lot. She goes with us, and I've heard horror stories about where like kids don't share the same last names, that they won't let you on a plane without a written note from the parent. So if you are reaching out to us and we're saying you need to do X, Y, and Z, don't wait till the night before your trip. Just take us at I will always tell people, if you're traveling with a baby, you take their birth certificate. Like I've had issues at Disney too, because if they're under 3, they're free. And I got that one cast member one time, and it was a Halloween party that was sold out. So, and he didn't have a ticket, and she was like, what are you he's not 3. And I was like, I promise. He's 3 till day after tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah.
we're here for his birthday. And she pulled us over to the side, but there were so many people. I think she just got frustrated and let us on through. And I was like, I would buy him a ticket, but there was no tickets to be had. It was sold out. I mean, what would we have done? There was 8 of us, you know. So if we are, as travel agents, urge you to do something, please try to do.
Yes. We are trying to save you.
We're saving you from that cry in the corner.
And you might never need it. And you might think, why do I need to take this? That's silly. Just take her word for it.
A good example of that is actually carrying your passport. When you're in a foreign country, if you, because there's a lot of conflicting information, and a lot of it comes from a long time ago, you know, pre 9/11. Things have changed in this world. And if you haven't traveled internationally for a while, and maybe even if you had and you got by, like Kara's story, where, hey, well, nobody asked me, it doesn't matter. The problem is if they do, and it does, then you're in trouble. So it used to be that the advice would be, don't actually carry your passport around a foreign country. It could be stolen from you. And then what are you going to do when it's pickpocketed and you don't have this is old advice. And they would say, make a photocopy and only carry that, and keep your passport locked away somewhere in your hotel room. That is old advice. Do not do that. Okay. I'm begging you, make a copy, put it in something else, like your suitcase, hidden in the inside pocket of your suitcase. Make a copy, send it to your mom or whoever that's not coming on the trip. Make a copy, take a photograph of your passport and save it as a photo on your phone. Those are some backup plans, okay? But what you're going to do is carry your passport around Italy, around wherever you are. You're going to carry it safely, tucked away on your person through your adventures. Then if it gets pickpocketed, you go to the local embassy with your copy or your picture on your phone and your ID if you have it. If it hasn't all been stolen from you, you go to the embassy and you say, I am this person. This got stolen from me in this location at this time. I need a new passport. And they're going to rescue you. They're going to give you a new passport right then and there. They're going to want you to report it probably to the police. They're going to make a note of it. That has been stolen. If that passport gets used anywhere, including PS, if you find it later and you were silly and actually just lost it, and then you find it later, that passport has now been reported stolen. And if you try to show up and use it, you are going to get pulled aside and interrogated. That happened to my daughter, so that's how I know that happens. So there are steps to take, but the first thing you're going to have to do is actually have your passport, because if the Italian police pull you over and you have a piece of paper from a Xerox, what is that? Anybody could have that. Where is your actual passport, you crazy American? They want to see the real thing. So don't just wander around the world without your actual passport documents. Okay. Also, PS, that's where your visa is going to be attached to. So, and that stamp that says somebody approved you to come in here and you didn't smuggle yourself into this country. So it matters to have your actual documents with you.
Yeah.
And also, even if it's not, even for just convenience, for something that's not that serious, sometimes like our IDs don't count, or like driver's licenses don't count the same elsewhere. Like
in other countries. Yeah.
When I would go to a bar, they would ask to see, they wouldn't accept my ID. So I needed my passport, you know, like it's just our driver's license doesn't hold any weight anywhere else. So things like that, things like just getting into random places to prove that you are who you say you are, you need your passport.
Yeah.
Great point. I think that was a really good episode that ended up being pretty much just on passports. Who knew that we would need all episodes?
I had no idea we had that much to say about passports.
Yeah. But I think this is going to be the beginning of a great series on international travel, and maybe just each component of traveling internationally that we can do an episode on. So it's really good. So to wrap up, now that we've gone international, where are you traveling in your mind today? Wrap up this episode.
I think Italy. I think Heather sold me on Italy.
Me too.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have opinions about London, and I get it, but but it's so nostalgic to me that I'm having flashbacks to London and would love to go back.
It's calling you back.
It is.
Yeah.
It's also like for a first time traveler. It's easier in the sense of everybody speaks English. You don't have to find somebody. Everybody speaks English.
And
everything is written in English. So
yeah, good.
But that's how I love it.
I'm also feeling very nostalgic today, and yesterday was my birthday. And
Happy birthday!
And my mom messaged me and was like, "Oh, it's your birthday. I miss you. I'm going to your favorite restaurant, and I'm doing all your favorite things today in France." So she was going to my So I'm like, I want to be in France today. I miss our sweet little village.
Yeah,
shout out to Heather's mom. Sherry in France.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
great.
I missed France today.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for that. That was a great episode, and I appreciate you guys joining me. So thank you for joining us today. And check back because we're going to have a whole series on first time international travel. So follow us. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Travel Bug Girls podcast. Be sure to subscribe to get our new episodes every week. We'd love to connect with you on social media. Share your answer to this week's podcast question with us at facebook.com/travelbuggirls. You can find us on your favorite social media by using @travelbuggirls. Want to join our VIP group? You'll find us on Facebook groups under TBG Travel Bugs. Learn more about the Travel Bug Girls and what we do on our website at travelbuggirls.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and safe travels. Are you ready to be in the room where it happens? Next spring, your shot at an unforgettable New York City experience is here. Imagine 4 incredible nights in the heart of Times Square, exploring iconic landmarks from Greenwich Village to Wall Street. Picture yourself gazing up at Lady Liberty and reflecting at the powerful 9/11 memorial. But that's not all. This isn't just any trip. It's your chance to witness the revolutionary energy of 2 Broadway shows, including the one you've been waiting for, Hamilton. We're taking care of everything. Round-trip flights from Dallas or your closest airport, comfortable hotel transfers, 5 delicious meals, and easy transportation throughout the city are all included. Don't throw away your shot. Visit travelbuggirls.com to book your Broadway dream trip today. That's travelbuggirls.com. Be a part of history. Experience New York City and the magic of Hamilton.